The Tree of Death and the Qliphoth book summary, Unlocking the Dark Mirror of the Soul. The Forbidden Path to Enlightenment. What if the truth you seek is hidden not in the heavens above, but in the abyss below? What if salvation is not found by denying the darkness, but by embracing it, understanding it, integrating it? This is the Tree of Death. A system so ancient and obscure, it was buried beneath layers of fear, dogma, and mysticism. Demonized by mainstream theology, ignored by conventional mysticism, and whispered about only in the deepest chambers of the occult, the Tree of Death is more than just the reverse of the Tree of Life. It is its mirror, its shadow, its forgotten twin. In this long-form journey, we will explore Jon Gee's profound and controversial book, The Tree of Death and the Qliphoth, chapter by chapter, idea by idea. We'll peel back the layers of myth and mysticism, apply symbolic, spiritual, and scientific insights, and uncover how these Qliphothic realms hold the keys to understanding our inner darkness, our unconscious mind, and ultimately, our divine potential. Prepare yourself, because to traverse the Qliphoth is to willingly descend into your own underworld, confront the illusions of the ego, and rise anew. Chapter 1. Introduction: The Origins of the Shadow Tree. Jon Gee begins by detailing the genealogical descent of the Tree of Death, starting from the earliest Kabbalistic traditions and tracing how thinkers like Eliphas Levi, Aleister Crowley, Kenneth Grant, and Karl Kellner each contributed to the fractured mosaic that is the Qliphoth. The Tree of Life is composed of 10 Sephiroth, emanations of divine light, but the Qliphoth, whose name means shells or husks, are the remains of an ancient cosmic catastrophe, the shattering of the vessels. When the divine light attempted to manifest through creation, not all the vessels were strong enough to hold it. The ones that shattered became the Qliphoth. Gee explores how the Golden Dawn and later Thelemic schools sought to map this shadow world. Yet, instead of simply creating a reverse Tree of Life, they began to uncover something far more complex, a parallel cosmology, complete with its own demons, energies, and spiritual functions. We are introduced to the idea that studying the Tree of Death isn't evil, it's essential. It's shadow work in the deepest sense. The Qliphoth are not obstacles, they are aspects of ourselves we've disowned. In Jungian terms, they are archetypes of the repressed shadow. Symbolic insight. Imagine your psyche as a mansion. The Sephiroth are the bright rooms you love to show off. The Qliphoth are the locked doors in the basement, filled with memories, traumas, desires, and power you've deemed unworthy. But within these rooms lies immense potential for transformation, for integration, for godhood. Chapter 2. The Qliphoth, shards of the cosmic egg. The Hebrew word Qliphoth, plural of Qlipha, comes from the root meaning shell or peel. They are the external husks of divine energy, what remains when the light departs. They are not evil by nature, but have become distorted by separation. Gee beautifully ties this into the notion of trauma. When we are overwhelmed, parts of us fragment. These fragments become like broken vessels, no longer integrated, but still filled with potential energy. The Qliphoth are the spiritual equivalent of psychological dissociation. Spiritual insight. To heal, we must gather our broken pieces. The Qliphoth teach us how to do that, not by ignoring them, but by entering them consciously. He uses the parable of the sower, Matthew 13:3-9, and applies gematria, the Jewish numerological system, to compare words like seed, thorn, and fruit. He shows that hidden in the sacred texts are coded references to the mechanics of light and shadow, sowing and reaping, death and rebirth. Through detailed gematria, we learn the seed, sperma 426, represents divine potential. The thorn, 1090, represents suffering and blockage. The fruit, 671, represents realized being. And between them is the path of integration, where suffering becomes wisdom and the husk becomes a chalice. Historical insight. Gee references Moses de Leon and Isaac Luria, who spoke of the breaking of the vessels, Sheverat HaKalim, as the primordial trauma of creation. This idea closely parallels Eastern notions of the fall into matter or the descent of spirit into samsara. Chapter the 3rd. The Blind Dragon Arrangement, a map of shadow. Jon Gee proposes a hybrid system called the Blind Dragon Arrangement, synthesizing multiple models. Lurianic Kabbalah, Crowley's 777, grants Nightside Explorations, and Savdow's Tree of Death. This system includes 10 archdemons, rulers of Anti-Sephiroth, the Unholy Trinity, 10 orders of demons, 5 accursed nations, 3 shrouds, 7 hells, 12 infernal omens, 22 Qliphoth sui generis. Gee's synthesis brings symmetry and logic to what had previously been a chaotic set of symbols. The Qliphoth are no longer just random horrors, they are mirrors of the Sephiroth. They show what happens when divine principles are corrupted or imbalanced. For example, Kether, divine crown, becomes Thaumiel, division of will. Bina, understanding, becomes Satariel, concealment. Hod, splendor, becomes Samael, false knowledge. These inversions help us understand the nature of spiritual error, not as sin, but as distortion. Psychological application. When we lose clarity of will, Kether, we become divided, Thaumiel. When we misunderstand ourselves, Bina, we hide from truth, Satariel. When we seek knowledge without wisdom, Hod, we become deceivers, Samael. Thus, the Tree of Death is a map of internal fragmentation and a guide back to spiritual coherence. Chapter 4. The 7 hells and the 3 shrouds. Descent through the void. To truly grasp the Tree of Death, one must pass through the 3 shrouds, Tohu, Bohu, and Chasek, 3 veils that conceal the raw substratum of reality. These are not just poetic abstractions, they are cosmic veils separating consciousness from chaos. The 3 shrouds of the deep. Tohu, formless desolation. It is the primal void before manifestation, a blank canvas. Psychologically, this reflects the terrifying moment when identity begins to disintegrate. In the language of trauma and shadow work, this is the first death, the loss of the ego's grip. Bohu, emptiness. Once form is lost, meaning follows. Here, the seeker is stripped of cultural scaffolding, morality, religion, language. This is the desert of the soul, akin to St. John's Dark Night or the Buddhist concept of sunyata, emptiness. Chasek, darkness. This is the final veil, black as pitch, silent as death. It is the womb of rebirth or the tomb of annihilation, depending on whether the initiate surrenders or resists. Each veil is a trial, but they also represent states of spiritual maturation. Tohu is confusion, Bohu is purification, and Chasik is potential. Together, they form the perimeter of the Qliphothic journey. Chapter 5, The Seven Hells, Maps of Psycho-Spiritual Descent. The seven hells in Jon Gee's system are not mere destinations of torment, they are psychological territories. Just as Dante traversed Inferno's 9 circles, the mystic descending into the Tree of Death must navigate these 7 planes of internal fragmentation. Sheol, the grave. The realm of inertia. The seeker is neither dead nor alive. This is where apathy takes root, a life lived without purpose. Abaddon. Perdition. Ruled by the angel of destruction, this hell is where identity disintegrates. It mirrors our culture's obsession with self-erasure, addiction, nihilism, escapism. Thetheos, clay. The symbolic matter from which humans were formed. In Qliphothic terms, it is the prison of the body. Materialism reigns here. Barishachat, the pit. The well of despair. No light enters, no hope escapes. This is where depression blooms, raw, unrelenting existential grief. Zalamoth, shadow. In Jungian terms, this is the confrontation with the unconscious. Here the seeker meets their buried rage, shame, desire, and fear. Sha'arimra, gates. The thresholds between hells. This is the station of initiation, the crossing of points of no return. Giyahanim, rubbish. The final hell, a chaotic landfill of the soul. Everything that was and could have been lies rotting here. These aren't just mythic realms, they're emotional zones we traverse in cycles. Depression, anxiety, ego death, all are gates to deeper knowing if we endure the journey consciously. Chapter 6. The 12 Infernal Omens, Shadows of Psyche. Jon Gee outlines 12 infernal omens, each one personifying a twisted fragment of human essence, echoing both astrological archetypes and psychological complexes. Ba'ariran, the flock. Blind obedience, the mob mentality, the death of sovereignty. Adamiran, bloody. Violence, both repressed and expressed. It represents the rage we're taught to bury. Salalimiran, changes. The masks we wear, the roles we perform, the fractured identity. Shitsariran, black. Depression as a spiritual initiation, a void that invites meaning. Shalabiran, flaming. Destructive passion, lust as longing for divine union misdirected. Saphiriran, scratches. Obsessive thought loops, inner saboteurs clawing at the psyche. Abiriran, kaye. Uncertainty, liminality, the condition of the postmodern soul. Nicheshlaran, brazen. False confidence, pride without merit, a mask of the insecure. Necheshiran, snaky. Subtle deception, gaslighting, lies we tell ourselves. Dagdagiran, fishy. Slippery, evasive nature of trauma. What we cannot grasp haunts us. Bahimiron, bestial. The primal urges that society represses, raw sexuality, hunger, violence. Nashimaran, malignant women. Archetypal feminine rage, Lilith unbound, Kali unbridled. These aren't meant to demonize but reveal. Each omen is a gatekeeper, a whisper from the unconscious begging for recognition. Chapter 7. The 22 Qliphoth sui generis, Crowley's Shadow Cabinet. This is where Jon Gee's work becomes terrifyingly intimate. Each Qlipha in Crowley's sui generis model corresponds to a physical or mental ailment, literalizing the idea that the Qliphoth are the psychic illnesses of an unbalanced soul. Some examples: Gargophias, menstrual disorders, the rejection of feminine cycles and rhythms. Dagdagil, venereal disease, the shadow of unbalanced desire. Urian's indigestion, the inability to digest experience. Hemethtereth, apoplexy, explosive anger turned inward. Gee's insight, these are not curses from demons, they are messages from the soul. Each illness has symbolic meaning. To journey through the Qliphoth is to translate the hidden language of suffering into sacred knowledge. Chapter the Year. Rituals of evocation and invocation, waking the inner demons. The rituals of evocation. To evoke is to call forth, not to worship, but to confront. The demons of the Qliphoth are summoned through ancient symbols, the triple angle, the broken tetragrammaton, the reverse pentagram. Jon Gee presents these rituals not as blasphemy, but as alchemical theater, a way to integrate the fractured psyche. Each evocation calls forth not an entity, but a part of you. The rituals of invocation. Invocation is different. It is union. You do not summon the force, you become it. This is the domain of chaos magic, where identity is fluid, archetypes are worn like masks, and reality is seen as a script. Chapter Ni. Chaos magic, MK Ultra, and the cremation of care. Gee goes further into the modern implications of Qliphothic knowledge. He explores how governments and occult orders weaponize these concepts. Monarch programming. Qliphothic fragmentation of identity as a tool of mind control. Cremation of care. The erasure of empathy to manufacture compliant agents of empire. In a Qliphothic world, numbness is the new obedience. But here's the secret. If the enemy uses these tools to enslave, the awakened use them to liberate. Final chapter. Synthesis, transcending duality. Jon Gee ends with a truth both sobering and empowering. The tree of death is no different at all from the tree of life. In the end, there is no evil and good, only unintegrated experience. The Qliphoth are not a rejection of spirituality, they are a deeper descent into it. A return to the holy via the unholy. A pilgrimage through shadow back into light. The path is brutal, but it is honest. To walk the Qliphoth is to become whole. In summary, becoming the silent one. When we become death, death is the seed from which we grow. Death needs time for what it kills to grow in. William Burroughs. When we become death, death is the seed from which we grow. Death needs time for what it kills to grow in. William Burroughs. The world is descending into spiritual amnesia, but you, yes you, are remembering. The world is descending into spiritual amnesia, but you, yes you, are remembering. Let that memory light your path. Subscribe to Positive Vortex for more deep dives into consciousness, mysticism, and forbidden knowledge. Like this video to amplify its message. Like this video to amplify its message? Check the description below for reading links, diagrams, and Jon Gee's full work.